Hey everyone, this is Ryan Eckert with Peak Endurance Solutions. Welcome to Beginner Run Drills. This is part one of a three-part series that I have, and in this video I'm going to cover some basic or beginner running drills. They're going to help improve your run technique, form, and efficiency. And then in the rest of this series, in part two and part two is going to be intermediate drills, and then part three is going to be advanced drills. So you're going to want to make sure that if you want to progress further throughout this series and get to the intermediate and then eventually the advanced drills, just make sure that you kind of understand and mastered these drills that I'm going to cover in this video. It's important that you nail down some of these fundamentals before you move on to the intermediate drills. And then again, important that you nail the intermediate drills because you're going to build upon those concepts even further with the advanced drills. And so in this video, I'm going to be covering 7 different drills. And so I'll go through them each one by one, but before I go through each of the drills, I just want to give you a brief background as to why you would do running drills and when you would incorporate them into your training schedule. So the good thing about running drills is they can pretty much be done anytime. You can do them before a run as part of your warm-up, which I would definitely recommend you do on at least one of your runs each week. Typically it's best to do them before some of your harder, more intense runs where like your speed and leg turnover and cadence might be a little bit higher. So for example, you might not necessarily do them before an easy recovery run, but if you're going out to do like a track session or a really hard run interval session or like threshold kind of session, it might be useful to do some of these drills beforehand, maybe after you've done a short, easy jog to warm up. Because a lot of these will also kind of serve as a dynamic stretch for you as well. So you kind of lengthen and loosen some of the muscles that you're going to be working really, really hard when you're doing some of your harder and faster efforts. And so why would we do running drills? So running drills kind of accomplish a few different things. First is to reinforce good running form and running technique. So running, kind of like cycling and swimming if you're a triathlete. Although swimming is probably the most technical, running is probably the second most technical, and then cycling is probably the least technical in terms of like how you need to manipulate your body. So with running, there's not necessarily one right way to run, or there's no such thing as perfect run form, because everyone's kind of built and structured a little bit differently, but there are certain things that you want to look for with proper running technique. So for example, just a few of those is you want to have your foot landing underneath your center of mass when you're running, so you don't necessarily want to be running with your foot striking way out in front of you or way behind you when you're running. You generally want to have a pretty upright posture with a slight forward lean at the hips, so you don't want to be running leaning way too far forward, but you also don't want to be running leaning too far back because that's not going to be as efficient. So those are just a few kind of examples of what to look for with good run form. And so with a lot of these drills, what we're trying to reinforce are some of those things. So we're trying to reinforce running with our foot landing underneath our center of gravity. We're reinforcing bringing our heel up to our butt when we're running, and using our quadriceps, our hamstrings, and our glutes, so activating all the major running muscles. We're working on making sure that we have good arm motion while we're running as well. So our arms are moving back and forth and they're not necessarily like swinging across our body. And there's actually a drill that I'm going to cover in here that focuses just on running arms. So we're reinforcing things like that. We want to make sure that we're reinforcing just a slight forward lean when we're running. So again, it's an ever so slight forward lean coming from the hips. So a lot of these drills will help reinforce that as well. So those are some of the reasons why you want to do running drills, is to reinforce those good aspects of technique. And then second, a lot of running drills too, especially some of the running drills that I cover in the intermediate and then advanced videos, are also going to help improve your running efficiency. So obviously as your form and technique improves, you're going to become more efficient of a runner. So what does efficient mean? Efficiency essentially is you being able to run at any given pace with less energy use or oxygen consumption, right? So when you're out there running or even just walking, for example, you're taking in oxygen and you're converting food inside of your body into calories to help fuel your movement. And so let's say you go out for a run at a 10-minute mile pace and you're using so much energy. Well, let's say you do a lot of these drills and over time you become more efficient. you're going to use less energy to run at that same pace, which in turn is going to help you run faster because you'll be able to hold faster paces. And then it will delay the onset of fatigue because you'll be able to run at kind of sub-maximal and steady paces at a lower energy consumption or utilization of energy to fuel that movement. So that's what I mean by efficiency. So not only are these going to help improve your running technique and your running form, which will in turn make you more efficient, but some of these you'll notice more so in the intermediate and advanced videos again, involves some explosive movement or like some quick and powerful kind of plyometric based movements, and a lot of those drills are going to help you become more efficient as a runner as well, because running is an explosive ballistic kind of movement, and so doing a lot of explosive type movements, which some of these drills are, is going to help make you more efficient over time. So those are two of probably the biggest reasons why you would do running drills. And again, you can include them as part of a warm-up before a hard session. You could do them at the end of a running session, so you could do them at the end of an easy run or a hard run, just to kind of reinforce good technique when you're fatigued. You can even do these on like an off day if you just want to have a really light kind of recovery session that doesn't involve a ton of hard work. You can just kind of go out into a field or onto a track and work on some of these running drills, and it's a great way to get blood kind of pumping throughout your body and to also be working on your run technique. But just getting that blood moving and kind of going through some of these dynamic stretches can help facilitate recovery on, say, an off day or an easy day. So let's dive into some of these drills. So again, I'm going to cover 7 of them in this video. And you want to make sure that you'll master these drills before you move on to the intermediate and then eventually the advanced drills. So this first one that we're going to cover is a knee hug. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, but all that matters here is you're going to see that I'm going to grab the front of my shin and hug it towards my chest, and I'm just giving my backside a good stretch, particularly the glutes. So I'm trying to give my glutes a really good stretch with this movement. So I'm just grabbing the front of my shin, hugging it towards my chest. Simple as that. And so with all these drills, there's not necessarily a set number of repetitions per se that you have to do in order for it to be effective, but I would recommend that for each of these, if you're on, say, a measured field like a football field or you're out on the track, just go maybe like 15, 20, or 30 yards if you're feeling ambitious with some of these drills. But otherwise, if you're just on an unmarked field like I am, just do like 5 to 10 reps total. And so if it's a drill where you're doing, most of these drills are obviously you have to do each leg independently. So for example, this one I would do, say, 5 on my left and 5 on my right, or I might do 10 on my left and 10 on my right, just to get anywhere between 5 and 10 reps total. And then moving on to the next one. So this next one is, I call it an ankle grab and stretch, or a quad stretch and reach is another term that I also use. But basically what you're doing is you're grabbing your ankle and stretching out the front of your thigh, and then you're reaching overhead with the opposite arm to give your hip a little bit more of a stretch. So I'll play the video just so it makes a little bit more sense. But you'll see I grab my ankle, I stretch out the front of my thigh, my quad. Play it one more time. Grab my ankle, stretch my quad, and then I reach overhead with that opposite hand. And what reaching overhead with that opposite hand does is just gives that front of your hip just a little bit more of a stretch. So this is a really great one to kind of open up the hips and open up the quads, especially before a really hard session when you're going to be putting those muscles through their full range of motion. This is a really, really good one to do. All right, moving on to the next one. So this next one I call the figure 4 stretch, or the figure 4 ankle grab is another term that I use for it. But this one is trying to stretch out the outer part of your glute. So some of those smaller glute muscles on the side of your hip that are involved with kind of stabilization, and some of those muscles that get worked really, really hard when we're running, because every time we land on the ground with one foot balancing us, we have to engage all those smaller kind of supplementary muscle groups to help keep our balance and to help keep our leg nice and stiff and firm when we land on the ground. And so this one does a really good job of stretching some of those deeper, smaller hip muscles. So all you're going to do is you're going to grab your ankle and you're going to hug it up towards the midline of your body, stretching the outside of your hip. And so you want to try and stay upright. You'll notice I'm trying to stay pretty tall and upright. I'm not hunching over too much. And then what that's going to do is it's going to give you a great stretch on the outside of your hip. Okay, moving on to the next one. So this next one I call straight leg kicks. Frankenstein's is another term I've heard for it too, but this one's a really, really good hamstring stretch. And again, all these are dynamic, so what's really great about doing these dynamic stretches is that it's promoting blood flow to all the muscle groups as you're stretching them, which is really good to serve as a warm-up before you do a hard run session. And they're also it's moving your muscles through their full range of motion, hopefully. So over time, these can also help improve your flexibility a little bit too, in more of a dynamic sense. So basically, all you're going to do with this one is you're going to kick one foot up as high as you can while keeping it straight. And I like to point out my opposite hand just to give me something to like aim for and to also kind of help counterbalance me as I'm kicking up. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just keep your hands by your side if you want. But for me, it always makes more sense to point a hand up. So that's what you're going to see me do here. So you're just taking a leg and you're kicking it up as high as you can. Trying to keep that leg relatively straight. You don't need to necessarily keep it locked out, but just try and keep it straight so that you're getting a really good stretch in your hamstring or the back of your thigh. Okay, so this next one focuses specifically on the running arm motion. So when we're running, if you look at, and I don't have a shot here from the front, I should have gotten a shot from the front, but all I have is a shot from the side. But what you're going to notice when you run, if you watch really good runners, like say professional runners or professional triathletes, most of them are going to have pretty decent run form, and good run form is characterized by a small compact motion with the arms coming from the shoulder joint, not necessarily the elbows, right? So we're swinging the arm back and forth around the shoulder joint. Okay, and it's just a small motion back and forth. And then also the arms shouldn't cross over the midline of the body too much. They might come towards the midline of the body, but they're not necessarily flinging back and forth across the midline of the body. Because normally what that means is that there's either some sort of tightness coming from the lower body or there's a really weak core. And then that means there's a lot of like lateral side-to-side motion. And with that lateral side-to-side motion, we're losing efficiency. Right? So obviously when you run, you want all of your energy to go towards propelling you forward. And if you've got arms swinging from side to side, normally that means that there's some lateral motion that is going on, and that's why your arms are swinging from side to side. And so that's energy being wasted on lateral motion, moving you from side to side. So that's an inefficient movement there. So what this running arms drill does is it gets you to focus on just swinging the arms back and forth, without crossing the midline of your body. So go ahead and play it, and all it is just keeping a nice 90-degree bend at the elbow and rotating around the shoulder. So notice the movement is coming around the shoulder joint. I'm not bending at the elbow and flexing and extending my arm. I'm just moving my arm back and forth with a nice 90-degree bend at the elbow around the shoulder joint. And the other thing that's kind of hard to see here, but you'll also notice that my hands are relaxed. So a term or a phrase or analogy that a lot of coaches will use when they're teaching people how to run with their hands is you don't want to keep them too tight and you don't want them to be like completely open. You almost want to imagine that you're holding a bag of potato chips. So if you hold a bag of potato chips, your hands are normally not gripping that bag for dear life because it's a delicate product, right? You just crush whatever's inside of it. So you're just kind of a gently closed fist. So you're not squeezing your hands together into fists, but you're also not running with your fingers like pointing straight out in front of you. So just nice relaxed hands, nice and relaxed at the elbow, nice and relaxed at the shoulder, and just a nice swing back and forth coming around the shoulder joint. Okay, so with this one you can just do like a total of 10 on each arm for 20 total. Again, just to kind of reinforce that pattern in your brain and in your body, to swing those arms back and forth in a straight line and not cross over the midline of your body. This is also a good one to do in the mirror too, just so you can see yourself. But obviously if you just look down at your chest in the midline of your body, you just want to make sure that your arms aren't crossing over that midline of your body when you're doing this. Okay, and then this next one is marching in place. So it's a little bit of a progression on top of the runner's arms. So you're basically doing runner's arms, but a little bit slower, and now you're raising up the opposite knee as if you were running or walking, right? So as my right arm swings up, my left leg is going to come up like I'm running. Okay, so you're just marching back and forth in place, getting a nice motion, swinging motion with the arms at the shoulder. And then you'll also notice that I'm driving my heels straight up to my butt. So rather than swinging my feet out in front of me, good running form is characterized by, as soon as that foot leaves the ground right here, that heel is driving up. So you're using those hamstrings and those glutes to drive that heel up. And then if you were running, you'd obviously kick that foot forward and then reach and extend and grab the ground. But think about on this one, driving that heel straight up towards your butt as you're marching back and forth. So this one's just marching in place. Again, just kind of reinforcing some positive, good technical patterns in your mind when it comes to your run form. And then this last one is less about the technique aspect of the run and more so about just really warming up the lower body and getting a good stretch in your hips. So this is lunges. So a pretty standard movement that a lot of you have probably done, but you're just doing walking lunges. And one thing that I like to do with this is as I lunge and I get a little bit warmer, I'll start going deeper and deeper and deeper into the lunge, getting more of a stretch in that front of the hip. So in this one, just stay nice and upright and get a good stretch in the front of that hip. And then you'll also be warming up the legs really nicely. So those are the 7 beginner or basic running drills that I wanted to cover in this video. So again, a lot of these are really, really basic. There's not too much technicality to them. But as with any drill, especially if you're a triathlete and you do a lot of swimming drills, you'll know that you have to be really, really present and focused on what you're doing in order to get the most out of these drills. So just when you're doing these, just make sure you're really focused on what you're doing and you're thinking about something related to your run technique or your run form. And eventually some of those things will start to carry over into your run form. So these aren't necessarily like the sexiest things to do. They're not the most fun, the most enjoyable things to do. But just like any drill, eventually these things will start to carry over and have benefits in your run. So again, do these as a warm-up before a harder run. You can do them at the end of a run just to kind of reinforce some good habits when you're tired. Or you can just do them on an off day as part of like an easy recovery session, just to kind of get some blood flowing throughout the body and to loosen up some muscles that might be sore or stiff. But yeah, just aim to do these at least once a week. And then over time, some of these things will start to carry over into your run form and they'll make you run with better form, better posture, which is obviously going to reduce the likelihood of injury related to running. And then it's also going to make you more efficient as a runner as well, which is going to give you better endurance and you'll be able to run faster since you're using less energy at any given running pace. So yeah, hopefully this video was informative and you got something from it. Just be consistent with these drills. And as always, if you have any questions on any of these drills, kind of how to incorporate them, or if you just want more details regarding a specific drill, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at peakenduranceSolutions@outlook.com, or you can go to our website, which is www.peakenduranceSolutions.com, and you can message me through our website. Again, thanks for watching, and take care.